Today I'm going to show you how to construct bridle joints in association to your assignment 105, Constructing Bridle Joints. I'll be showing you how to make a T-bridle, which will be part of this section of your frame, and a corner bridle, which will be on the other sections of your frame. Now we're going to start with the simpler of the two, which is the corner bridle. Now, as you can see, this top section flows all the way through the middle, and the side section flows all the way through on the outside edges. Now this is broken into thirds, so at some point we will be dividing this into three and dividing this piece into three, so we can work that out. But in theory, with our pieces that we've cut at 150 millimeters for our practice, that will ultimately go in and through that piece. Now we'll start off with marking this out. We know that this width here is 44 mil or millimeters, however you prefer to say it. We're going to mark that on the timber there. Using our tri-square, convert that line across, which will show the shoulder line of it when it comes into the top piece. Same with the top piece, we need to mark 44 millimeters down, but this time we're going to turn it on its side. And I'll explain why we're doing that in just a second. So I'm just going to mark 44 there. Again, use our tri-square across. Now the reason for marking this on the side is you're only going to see, or going to need to see, the shoulder lines on this side of the timber. Also on this side we need to transfer these lines across, a little bit like what we did on our T-halving. The reason for that is on your finished piece you only see the shoulder there, you don't see any of this taken away, so we don't need to mark anything on there. The reason why this has got a marked line on it is because they've transferred the lines right across. So I will transfer those lines across like that, but we are only obviously worrying about this edge and this edge. Now with our next thing to do would be to measure our timber and see what that works out to be, which in this case is 33 millimeters. So we need to divide 33 millimeters by 3 to make it into thirds. So 33 divided by 3, and I'll just write it on here, divided by 3 equals 11. So we want all these 3 sections, just like it is on here, that being 11 mil from there to there, 11 mil from there to there, and 11 mil from there to there. So with our mortise gauge, not the marking gauge, the double-sided, we want to now mark or set this to be 11 millimeters, which is a little bit fiddly, so it will take you time. And then you want to bring the base up to 11, and once you've done that, lock it off. Just like you did with your T-halving, use your timber, tilt it over to put the 2 little pin marks on there, spin it around and check it for centralization again. Now you can see that those 2 lines are perfectly, or those 2 dented marks on both ways are perfectly in line with each other. So we now know this mortise gauge is perfectly well set up. So with that, focus on the sides that you're concerned about, where we're going to see the joins and the shoulders. And again, just like you would do with a marking gauge, you run that up there. Just this time, it is forming 2 lines instead of the 1. Now you want to transfer that across the top, like we did with the marking gauge. Doing the T-halving and then marking it down that side also. Now one thing I have forgotten to mention with this is when you're using a marking gauge, if you put your timber down and walk away, you can't remember necessarily if you've used it that side or that side. So what we ultimately want to do is the side we put this base on, or the chock of the mortise gauge, which would have been that side, so it's on here. We want to put a little arrow like that and a face mark. So we've done it on this side as well, so that will be a face there and there. And then whenever you're doing anything, you keep your face marks together. So you wouldn't want to run your gauge up that side, spin it around, and you see your markers there, and do it that side. That would be incorrect. Because if you do have a small discrepancy and you haven't noticed at this point, what you'll find is your lines may go slightly to the left that side and then slightly to the right that side, which ultimately you'll then be on a slight angle when you're cutting. So once we've got these marked out, you want to colour those lines in, because it does make it a lot easier to be able to see the mortise gauge lines. Now, as you can see with this piece, it's mirroring that piece there, but it disappears because you can see the end grain of this bit coming through. So, like we did before, we want to colour that in so we know what bit is the wastage. Same on the top, same down that side. Once that is marked out, we'll put it face side up so we keep it together, and now we can focus on this side. If you want to, before you start, if you put your face mark on there, then you know that you will always keep those face sides pointing the same way. You don't want one like that and one like that, because then if you've got any variation with this, you'll have steps in your shoulders. So keep them the same. Once you pick it, use that. We need to transfer that line down both sides again. So one down there and one down there. I'm also going to do the back edge on this one as well. Now, for instance, we had no thought process staying with us on this face. But this one coming in, this is the shoulder. So we want to get rid of that piece and we want to get rid of that piece. We're going to mark those across. Again, exactly the same, using the face line with the chock across the top. But this time, when it comes to colouring in what bits we are getting rid of, it is the opposite than what we did last time. But it's quite critical that your top piece is this way round and your upright piece is the other way, because you could quite easily get it the wrong way round, and then it's not how your assignment should be on that joint. So with this, we'll colour in the bits opposite to what we did last time. And we now know we're keeping that bit in the middle there, and we're keeping these outer two bits here. So now we've cut this. Now that is cut and you've taken out those two pieces, you may be left with a very small section there that's just a bit higher than the rest of it, and we must chisel that out before we continue, because otherwise when the join goes up, these shoulders will not touch. So just pop that in your vise, use a chisel with a mallet and just tap that section out. And just clean up that shoulders. Now that will be able to go up onto its joint nicely. So with the upright section now complete, we can now put our joint together. So you slot them together, make sure your shoulders are nicely touching with no gaps. Now we need to mark on this piece where we're going to put our fixing, which is our screw. So we can mark corner to corner on that side. And then you can mark from this corner to your pencil line on the other side there. Then we have the central position for our screw to go into, like that. Now generally you would now glue this together. You could put your joint together. I would pilot a hole with a drill right in the center there, but as you go down, you only want to drill as far as this first piece, because if you go too far, what will happen is you will have no grip for your screw as that goes in. So make sure you stop right at this first point and not continue. The reason why we pilot a hole is to prevent any splitting of the timber as that screw goes down into the joint. So now we'll grab our drill. You want to make sure your joint is sitting nice and square. So you can put your tri-square on there and make sure you've got no gaps along that line. Take that off, hold it together and run your screw in so it's just under flush. Now if you're struggling to hold that together, there is nothing stopping you putting a clamp on there like that as you're fixing. That is now a corner bridle fully finished. Okay, for the second section, which is your T-bridle, which on your bridle frame is this section here. Now the piece I've got here as a demonstrator is a lot thinner than this piece, but the same theories apply, with it being split into thirds, which you can see on each one of these is exactly the same. But what we need to now do, instead of it being on the corner like it was last time, this will now be in the center to form the T. So starting off, what we need to do is have our top piece. We need to figure out where this central piece fits in the top, so it works out nice and even side to side. We have a 150mm long piece of timber here, and we already know that that is 44mm thick. So 150 minus 44 leaves you 106mm. Once you have 106mm, you need to then divide that by 2, because you need a bit that side and that side. It's exactly the same on how you would do your T-halving. Just remember, this is only on your practice piece. When it comes to doing your assignment, this is worked out in different measurements, which you'll have to go off the drawings for. But the actual method of cutting this is exactly the same on both your practice and your assignment. So once we have 150mm, we've worked out minus 44 is 106mm. You divide that by 2, which gives you 53mm, which is there. Again, use your tri-square to square that line across like that. Then you can mark from that point 44mm and mark it across. Is good to just check it with your piece on top like that, so you can just see the pencil line there. You should come around this side and you can just, if I get that a bit more evening, so you can just see that section there, you can just see the pencil line there as well. That's going to be a nice snug fit when this piece comes up into it. Exactly the same again, we want to mark these lines down both sides. And on this top piece, we'll go all the way around, as it makes it a bit easier coming to doing the cutting out. Again, one thing we should do, which I've missed out already, is we mark in a face mark on here. So that'll be there, and it'll be on this top point here like that, and that's the side that the mortise gauge will sit on. Now that's marked out, we are going to mark our bridle mortise on this side like that. Again, flip it over, making sure your chock is on your face mark side. Run that down exactly like we've done before, just colour them in, makes it a lot easier to see. It gives you a better visual when you're cutting where to cut to. So now we've got that set up. As you can see with this piece that's already done, the top piece comes into it. So we need to take out that section along there and there, but also on the other side, there and there and there. So we are leaving the middle section on here, just like you can see here where it flows through. Now, how you would cut this is exactly how you would with your T-halving. You cut either side on your waistline, on the waist side, sorry, and then you do lots of little relief cuts all the way down, and then you just chisel out to that line, exactly the same as what you would do with your T-halving. Repeat that on the other side so you have both sides together, and then that Okay, now we have our piece all housed out. It is now time to try it together. So this is quite a nice snug fit, and what I would say is that if you cannot push it together under your own strength, it's probably a little bit too tight. If you have to start hitting it with the mallet any more than that, that's too tight, and you need to find out where it might be too tight and where it's touching. Once that is up together like that, you would then pull it apart, glue the joint together, and then we would go about fixing it. Again, exactly the same process where we draw corner to corner to find the center, so we know where the screw needs to go. We will pre-drill, remember going through the first bit of timber, not all three. Like that. And the drill with the screw. And fixing that together like that. That is one bridle, T-bridle, made and finished.